For me, Black lives have always mattered. That's not new. Black lives have mattered from the beginning of time. What's new is the willingness of people to talk about it. And we have an opportunity to amplify the discussion and to move things forward, especially today. This town hall we're doing, We the People, is going to have some of the biggest voices for change in the country, all in the palm of your hand, including Killer Mike, who is just a legend in my mind. Jamel Hill is going to be here. We're also going to hear from Elaine Welteroth. Now, she's an author, but she's already made history. And she's made history because in the history of Condé Nast, with all the magazines they own and control, only 2 people have ever been named editor-in-chief, and she is one of them. So please welcome to this conversation, Elaine Welteroth. Look, I am so happy that I get a chance to have this conversation with Elaine. I mean, this sister is just bad. She's bad. She's a New York Times bestselling author, award-winning journalist. She's been a judge on the new Project Runway. She messed with Michelle Obama. She's just bad. So I want to talk to you about this moment. It's just been such a mix of inspiring protests and killings and stuff like that. Talk to us about your range of emotion over this past period of what I call this great awakening around justice.
It's been really heavy. It's been really emotional. This is not new for Black people in America, right? We have been grieving for a long time around these same kinds of senseless murders. I wrote about, Philando Castile's murder, which really represented in my book. And I wrote about it from the perspective of being one of very few Black people in the office at the time, when I was so devastated. So it was so hard to get out of bed that morning, let alone proceed as business as usual. And I wrote about what it was like coming into the office that day, expecting or anticipating that other people might be feeling some of what I was feeling, just as humans, as, feeling, thinking humans, and feeling like everyone was able to move on like business as usual. It feels so relevant once again now, thinking, 4 years later, here we are again. But the difference is that the response from the rest of the community, folks who are non-Black, are finally seeing this moment as a wake-up call to get off the sidelines and to get involved and invested in this fight for justice. So I can say that since being in the streets and attending a number of protests, there is something different in the air this time. There are a lot of emotions I think we're all moving through or trying to move through to get towards the collective action that we all need to take. There is so much work for all of us. So I think we're all feeling that pressure, we're feeling that weight, but I think we're also feeling empowered that this time has to be different. It has to be different.
You've been on this. I mean, you really have been not just an inspiration, but you've been offering really education to a whole new generation through Teen Vogue. And you were doing it when it was, now it's trendy, now it's popular, but you were doing it when it wasn't trendy, when it was kind of shocking to see Teen Vogue taking on these issues. Why did you make that choice? Because you're saying other people now are going to have to make similar choices to be a little bit more brave and bold, but you were doing it when it wasn't cool. Why? And talk about that.
By speaking just about fashion, we were ignoring the range of interests that were central to them, the issues that mattered to them in the world. And so we made sure that we were creating more of an intersectional feminist focus, and that included fashion and pop culture, but that also spoke to, intersectional feminism and social justice issues. Black Lives Matter. You're right that there was no model for success for that at the time. There were a lot of people that were like, oh, Teen Vogue? Talk about politics and justice issues? And we got pushback, folks thought it wasn't our place to go. But the reality is that young people have been at the forefront of social justice issues for generations. It was certainly, I won't say scary, but there was an uncertainty about how it would pan out, but we knew that we had to do the right thing, and we felt like we had to be a part of the right side of history. And I'm very proud to say that we have been, and I'm so proud of the team there that's leading that charge today. But you're right in that I think a lot of companies are now confronting that same reckoning of what do we mean now? How do we mean more to our community? How do we right size to make sure that we're meeting this moment and that we are on the right side of history and that we are better serving our community and our audience, our consumers?
Well, let's talk about that, though, because you can actually give some advice to people who are working at these brands, whether they're at the top or whether they're the intern. These brands are going to now have to do some of what you've already done. I mean, when you're a pioneer, that means you've been there, done that. What do these brands need to do to get relevant and to catch up to this moment?
So there's 3 steps I would say that any individual brand or corporation can follow. First of all, you have to take inventory of where you are. You can't be a part of a solution if you don't recognize how you are part of the problem.
You better preach. Can you say that one more time? Just preach.
I think nobody wants to say they're racist. Nobody wants to I raise their hand and say, I haven't done my part here, or I recognize that I could do better. And so it's, I think, important to just acknowledge what part do you play? What part have you been playing in this? And take inventory. What does the complexion of your newsroom look like? Who's in your boardroom? Who has those board seats? And let's look at every level of management, all the way down to the intern level. Take an honest assessment of where we are. And I don't mean just looking at your campaigns. And so we have to push ourselves to go further. And so that's part of step 1 is taking inventory. Step 2, take ownership, acknowledging where you need to change, where you need to do better. And then the 3rd step is take action, do better, commit to being a part of solutions that are going to move us from where we are to a better, more equitable future.
So, for example, Sephora said they're going to give 15% of their shelf space to Black-owned brands. Now, I think, to me, that's a lot. Does that strike you as too much, too little? I mean, what is that when you talk about taking action? Is that the kind of action, or what kind of action might really meet the moment?
Is there something I can do with my contacts, with my experience, with my skill set? What can I uniquely do? I hope everyone's asking themselves that question. And one of my very close friends, Aurora James, and I were having a conversation when all the protests were kicking off about what we want to see from companies, because we were starting to see all the we stand with the Black community and Black Lives Matter was starting to come from companies that we're just like, how in the world is this by this corporation when they have 0 Black people in their executive leadership team? Something's not adding